Welcome to Talk Treatises.
Today involves a bit of a shift in perspective.
Yeah.
We're looking at a text that I honestly consider a glitch in the matrix of classical history.
A glitch? That's a strong opener for a poetry reading.
It is, but it fits. We're doing a deep dive into De Rerum Natra, or On the Nature of Things, by Titus Lucretius Carus.
Okay, so set the scene for us. We're in the 1st century BCE Rome. Usually when we're in this territory on the show, I'm mentally strapping in for mythology.
Sure.
I expect Jupiter throwing lightning bolts, heroes sulking in tents, maybe a wooden horse or two.
Right. You expect a narrative about power and fate and these capricious gods. But Lucretius, he gives us this beautiful, lyrical, epic poem about physics.
It really is strange. It's like if Stephen Hawking decided to write A Brief History of Time, but he wrote it in, I don't know, Shakespearean sonnets.
Exactly.
And not just for the sake of art.
Yeah.
He had a reason.
No, and that's the key. He didn't write it just to show off his meter. He had a very specific, urgent mission. He's writing to a friend, this Roman nobleman named Memmius, and he's essentially trying to perform an intervention.
An intervention.
He wants to cure Memmius of the terror and the darkness of the mind.
That's the hook for me. He's not offering salvation through prayer or, sacrifice. He's offering salvation through atomic theory.
Yes.
He basically says, look, I can cure your anxiety, your fear of death, and your superstition, but first, I need to teach you how particles move in a void.
It is the ultimate rationalist project. And you have to appreciate the backdrop here to really get the urgency. This wasn't written in some quiet, dusty library. Lucretius mentions a season troublous to the state.
Right, Rome is tearing itself apart at this point.
Exactly. Civil wars, assassinations, political chaos. It was a terrifying time to be alive.
Which makes the opening invocation of the poem so poignant. He starts by praying to Venus,
The goddess of love and creation.
but he asks her specifically to seduce Mars, the god of war, to lull him to sleep. He's basically begging for a ceasefire just so he has the quiet headspace to write this philosophy.
It's a beautiful setup. Love needs to conquer war so that wisdom can speak. And the wisdom he's offering is what he calls the dark discoveries of the Greeks, specifically the philosophy of Epicurus.
So let's unpack this wisdom. What is the central thesis that is supposed to make us feel better about living in a war zone?
The thesis is, it's ruthless materialism. Lucretius argues that everything, the stars, the earth, the gods, and crucially your own soul, is made of just two things.
Atoms and void.
Atoms and void. That's it. There is no magic. There is no divine plan. And he believes that if you truly grasp that fact, you will achieve perfect peace of mind.
I have to admit, that sounds almost cold at first glance. Don't worry, you're just atoms. How is that comforting?
Well, let's look at the alternative. In his time, the alternative was living in constant fear that if you, stepped on a crack, Jupiter would smite you.
Right.
Or that if you didn't sacrifice enough bulls, the state would collapse. If you understand the machinery, you stop fearing the magician.
Okay, let's look at the machinery then. Segment 1. The atomic foundation. He starts with a maxim that I think everyone knows, even if they don't know it's Lucretius.
Nothing from nothing ever yet was born.
Exactly.
It's the first principle. It sounds obvious to us now, but it's a direct attack on religious creationism. He's saying nature operates by fixed laws. If things could just pop into existence from nothing, why would we need seeds? Why would we need parents?
He has that great image. If creation were spontaneous, humans could just rise out of the sea like Godzilla, and birds could just burst out of the sky.
A tree could appear in your living room, but that doesn't happen. Things grow slowly from specific organic materials at specific times. That proves there's a fundamental, unchangeable substance underlying everything.
The atoms.
He calls them bodies or seeds of things. We call them atoms.
And these atoms are the boundary stone of existence. You can't smash them. They are solid, eternal, and invisible. But atoms are only half the story.
Right.
You also need somewhere to put them.
The void.
This part actually tripped me up a bit reading it. I'm used to thinking of space as just, nothing. But he has to aggressively prove that nothing exists.
He does, because if the universe were a solid block of matter, just wall-to-wall atoms motion would be impossible.
It would be cosmic gridlock.
Complete gridlock. Nothing could move because there's nowhere for it to go.
Right.
Think of a fish swimming. For the fish to move forward, the water has to yield, has to move out of the way.
Yeah.
But where does the water go? It has to move into a space that was just vacated. If there's no empty space, no void, the water is locked. The fish is stuck.
So without void, the universe is a frozen block. With void, you get the dance of atoms. But here's my issue, and I think it's where Lucretius has to get creative.
Yeah.
If atoms are just falling through the void, he describes them raining down through the infinite dark. Why do they ever hit each other?
That is the crucial problem. If they fell in perfect parallel lines, drawn by their own weight, they wouldn't interact. They'd never touch. No collisions, no combinations, no whirl.
But it introduces the Kleineman, the swerve.
This is Lucretius's genius move, and perhaps his most debated one. He says that occasionally, at uncertain times and uncertain places, an atom it will swerve. Just a tiny bit, a changed trend.
It sounds like a cheat code. The math doesn't work, so I'll just say they wiggle.
It does sound like a patch to fix the physics, I get that. But the philosophical implications are massive. First, yes, it explains creation. The swerve causes the collisions that build stars and rocks. But more importantly, Lucretius uses this to solve a massive philosophical problem, determinism.
How do we get from wiggling atoms to philosophy?
Well, think about it. If every atom moves according to a rigid, unbreakable chain of cause and effect, atom A hits atom B, which hits atom C, then everything that happens was destined to happen from the beginning of time.
Including this conversation. Including what you ate for breakfast.
We'd just be robots made of meat.
Slaves to fate.
Exactly. We would be slaves to fate. Lucretius asks, whence this free will for creatures or the lands? If the chain is never broken, where does agency come from?
The swerve.
The swerve breaks the chain. It introduces a fundamental unpredictability at the very base of reality.
That is surprisingly modern. It's almost like the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. He's deriving human freedom from, quantum fluctuation.
He is. And remember the goal, to cure fear. If everything is fate, you're helpless. If the gods control everything, you're a pawn. But if there's a swerve, you have agency. You are free.
Okay, so we've built the universe. We have atoms, void, and the swerve. Now we get to the medicine. Because Lucretius isn't teaching us physics just so we can pass a test. He's trying to cure the ultimate anxiety.
The fear of death.
And this is where he gets controversial.
Oh, yes. To cure the fear of death, he has to convince you that the soul is mortal.
This is the pill Memmius didn't want to swallow. I don't think anyone wants to swallow it, really.
Most people don't. But Lucretius is firm. He argues the mind and soul aren't some mystical, ghostly spirit. They are physical organs, just like your hand or your liver.
So they're made of atoms.
They're made of atoms, very fine, round, mobile atoms, like air or heat, but atoms nonetheless.
And because they are physical, they're subject to physical laws, meaning they break.
He lays out the proof. Look at a human life. When you're a toddler, your body is weak and your mind is weak. You can't speak or reason.
Sure.
As your body gets stronger, your mind gets sharper. And then as the body decays in old age, the mind often decays too. Senility, dementia.
So he's asking, if the soul is this immortal, perfect spirit that just visits the body, why does it get old? Why does it get sick when the body gets sick?
Precisely. He argues that since they're locked together in growth and disease, they must be locked together in death. He uses the vessel analogy. The body is a jar. The soul is the water inside.
And if you smash the jar?
The water spills out and evaporates. It doesn't float away in a perfect cube shape. It scatters.
So when you die, the you atoms just disperse back into the universe to become, part of a tree or a rock.
Yes. There is no hell. There is no Tartarus. There are no Furies waiting to whip you. It's just lights out.
But that's the terrifying part. I think for most modern listeners, the eternal nothingness is the thing we're afraid of.
Lucretius anticipates that. And he offers the mirror of time. This is one of my favorite arguments in the whole text.
Go on.
He says, look back at the eternity before you were born.
Okay. I see dinosaurs. I see the pyramids being built. I see the Punic Wars.
Did you suffer during those times? Were you anxious? Were you in pain?
No, I didn't exist.
So why are you afraid of the eternity after you die? It's a mirror image. The time after death is exactly the same as the time before birth. If the past didn't hurt you, the future won't either.
It's a powerful perspective shift. We obsess over the abyss ahead of us, but we completely ignore the abyss that's already behind us.
And then he gets a little aggressive. He brings nature herself into the conversation to scold the reader. We call it the banquet analogy.
This is the tough love section.
It is. Nature asks the complainer, why not, even like a banqueter, depart the halls, laden with life?
So if you've had a good life, treat it like a dinner party.
Right. You've eaten, you've drank, you've had a good time. Now the party is over. Leave gracefully. Why drag it out when you're tired and miserable?
And if you've had a bad life,
then why do you want more of it? It's a win-win argument, really. Either you're satisfied and should go, or you're dissatisfied and should be glad to leave.
It's hard to argue with, even if it's easier said than done.
Okay.
But let's shift gears to how we actually perceive this world. We're bags of atoms walking through a world of atoms. How am I seeing you right now?
Simulacra.
Which translates to likenesses or films.
This is a wild theory. Lucretius proposes that every object in the world is constantly shedding its skin. Thin layers of atoms are peeling off the surface of everything all the time.
He compares it to a cicada shedding its shell.
Exactly. So there's a film of you flying through the air right now towards my eyes.
Millions of them, apparently.
Millions of them, traveling at incredible speeds. Vision occurs when these atomic skins strike the eye. It's a tactile theory of sight. You are literally being touched by the object you see.
That is visceral. But he uses this to explain optical illusions, doesn't he? The square tower example.
Right. Why does a square tower look round from a distance? He says it's not your eye lying to you, it's that the film got damaged in transit. As the square film flies through the air, the friction of the air wears down the sharp corners. So by the time it hits your eye, the corners are gone. It looks round.
The data was corrupted during the download.
That's a perfect way to put it. He defends the senses to the death. The senses report the impact correctly. It's the mind that interprets it wrong.
And this leads to his explanation of dreams, which is basically that these films are still floating around even when the object is gone.
Yes. You see a dead relative in a dream, not because their ghost is haunting you, but because old films of them are still drifting through the atmosphere, and they happen to strike your mind while your body's asleep.
Spooky, but consistent with the physics. Now, I want to zoom out. We've done the atoms, the soul, the senses. Now Lucretius looks at society. And this is where he really breaks from the tradition of his time.
Oh, absolutely.
Most ancients believed in a golden age, that things used to be perfect, and we've just degenerated since then.
Lucretius says, absolutely not. He gives us an evolutionary history of mankind. He says early humans were hardy beasts. They lived in caves, they froze, they were eaten by predators.
So civilization wasn't a gift from Prometheus or some god.
No, it was a slow, painful grind. Fire wasn't stolen from the gods. It was discovered when lightning struck a tree or branches rubbed together long enough.
And language?
It wasn't taught by a deity, it developed naturally, like baby talk or animal cries, just sounds to denote objects, necessity.
So what about religion? Where did that come from?
Ignorance. He says early humans looked up at the stars, saw the perfect order of the seasons, and couldn't explain it mechanically. So they invented gods to run the system. They saw lightning and thought someone was angry.
So religion is basically a god of the gaps argument. We filled the gaps in our knowledge with deities.
And Lucretius is trying to close those gaps. Which leads us to the terrifying conclusion of his physics. If the soul is mortal and the body is mortal,
the world is mortal.
The world had a birthday, so it must have a funeral. He describes the earth, sky, and sea as being locked in a constant war of elements. Wet versus dry, hot versus cold. Right now, it's in a delicate balance. But eventually, the truce will break.
And that's why he spends so much time explaining natural disasters, earthquakes, volcanoes, as just wind trapped in caverns.
He has to. If you think an earthquake is Poseidon getting angry, you're terrified. If you know it's just trapped gas, it's still dangerous. But it's not personal. It's just mechanics.
But the poem doesn't end with a nice lecture on geology. It ends with the plague.
The plague of Athens. It is such a jarring ending. After 6 books of beautiful poetry and promises of peace, he describes this horrific epidemic. Ulcers, burning thirst, blood choking the throat.
He describes people rolling in the dirt, temples filling with dead bodies, the total breakdown of social and religious order. Why end there? Why not end on a high note?
I think it's the final exam. He's showing us material reality at its absolute worst. Nature is indifferent, atoms give life, and atoms take it away in the most gruesome fashion.
And the challenge is?
The challenge to the reader is, can you look at this horror, this total lack of divine protection, and still maintain your ataraxia, your peace of mind?
It's easy to be a philosopher in a garden, much harder in a plague ward.
That's the point. The universe doesn't care about you, so you must find your own peace.
All right, we've covered the heavy philosophy. Now let's test the logic. It's time for our thought experiments segment.
Let's do it.
Experiment number 1, the javelin at the edge of the world. This is Lucretius proving the universe is infinite.
So I want you to imagine you travel to the very edge of the universe, the absolute boundary line. You stand on the edge and you throw a javelin outward as hard as you can.
Okay, it's in the air. What happens?
There are only two things that can happen. Option A, the spear keeps flying.
Which means there is empty space void out there for it to move into, so I wasn't at the edge.
Right. The boundary was fake. Option B, the spear hits something and bounces back or just stops.
Which means there's matter out there blocking it. So I also wasn't at the edge.
Exactly. Whether it flies or stops, there is something beyond. You can repeat this process forever. Therefore, the universe cannot have a boundary. It must be infinite.
I love that. You can't logic your way out of it. Okay, experiment number 2, the magnet and the vacuum. This one explains spooky action at a distance.
The question is, how does a magnet hold a chain of iron rings without touching them? Magic.
Lucretius says no. He says the magnet is shooting out a heavy stream of atoms.
Like a fire hose. This stream pushes the air away from the space between the magnet and the iron ring. It creates a vacuum, a little pocket of void.
And we know nature abhors a vacuum.
Right, so the air behind the iron ring is constantly pounding against it. Suddenly, the resistance in front of the ring is gone because of that vacuum. So the air behind pushes the ring forward into the void towards the magnet.
So the magnet isn't pulling, the magnet is clearing the path, and the air is pushing.
It frames attraction as a mechanical shove. No magic required.
Just a quick disclaimer. Please do not try to throw javelins at the edge of the universe, and we are not responsible if you create a vacuum in your living room. These are ancient thought experiments for educational purposes only.
But if you do find the edge, take a picture.
So what is the takeaway here? We've gone from swerving atoms to rotting bodies to the end of the world.
The takeaway is that knowledge is the antidote to terror. Lucretius believes that we suffer because we misunderstand the world. We think the gods are out to get us. We think death is a gateway to torture.
But if we understand the physics,
we realize the universe isn't angry at us. It's just atoms and void. And that realization frees us to enjoy the life we have.
There's one final image from the text I want to leave the listener with. It's the image of the watcher.
The shipwreck.
Lucretius writes that it is sweet to stand on the shore and watch a ship struggling in a violent storm. Not because we're sadists who enjoy seeing people drown.
No, but because it is sweet to see what evils we are free from.
He uses it as a metaphor for philosophy. The philosopher stands on the firm ground of truth, watching the rest of the world get tossed around by the storms of superstition and ambition.
It's a powerful image of safety.
But I want to ask you, the listener, is that enough? Is the goal of life really just to stand safely on the shore, or is there something a little cold about that detachment? Is peace of mind worth the distance it creates between you and the rest of struggling humanity?
That's the question Lucretius leaves us with. Is the peace worth the price?
Something to mull over. Thanks for listening to Talk Treatises.